Steelers Nation, what's up? We're back with another big-time update, and let me tell you, this one's going to have you thinking hard about where this team is really headed. The Pittsburgh Steelers are working every day to perfect this roster, looking to shake off years of playoff frustration and bring that hard-nosed, dominant football back to the Burgh. Before we dive in, go ahead and smash that like button if you're excited to see the black and gold chasing greatness again. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so you never miss an exclusive update. All right, let's talk Aaron Rodgers, the wide receiver conundrum, and a possible end to that awful playoff drought. Now, Steelers fans, the quarterback spot has been a massive question mark all offseason. Let's not sugarcoat it. Mason Rudolph is the current QB1, and while he earned respect late in 2023, he's entering a totally new offensive system, and there's no telling if he can carry this team through a full season. But all signs continue to point toward Aaron Rodgers joining the squad. And now, someone who knows Rodgers inside and out just gave Steelers fans a real reason to believe. Ian O'Connor, the author of Rodgers' biography Out of the Darkness, hopped on 93.7 The Fan, and confidently predicted that Rodgers is going to fit in perfectly in Pittsburgh. I actually think this is maybe me as an optimist. I think this is going to work out, O'Connor said. Do I think the Steelers are going to win the Super Bowl? No, but if you told me 11-6 with at least one playoff victory, the first with that franchise since 2016, I think that's realistic. I think this could be a success story and certainly a worthy ending for him. Let that sink in. Rodgers not only landing in Pittsburgh, but helping deliver the team's first playoff win in nearly a decade, after all the drama, missed opportunities, and QB uncertainty. We'll take it. Now here's why this pairing might just work. Rodgers was spotted throwing with DK Metcalf, who the Steelers just acquired, and he reportedly spent 6 hours visiting the team's facility in Pittsburgh. Some are already whispering about a handshake agreement, and insiders believe it's only a matter of time before the ink hits the paper. Rodgers didn't have much success the last 2 years with the Jets. A torn Achilles in 2023, rust and inconsistency in 2024. But according to O'Connor, his play improved down the stretch as he worked off the rust and adapted post-injury. Here's the thing. Pittsburgh has a better roster than the Jets did last year. The offensive line is improved. The defense still has its backbone with TJ Watt, Minkah Fitzpatrick, and Cam Hayward. And with Metcalf in town, plus emerging young weapons, Rodgers could walk into one of the more balanced situations he's had in years. O'Connor says to circle June 10th, the start of mandatory minicamp. That's when we could finally see the announcement become official. So, Steelers fans, after months of waiting, this may all become real within a few weeks. Now, while the quarterback story is brewing, another problem has been lingering. After trading away George Pickens, the Steelers now have a massive hole in the receiving corps. With organized team activities starting soon, this needs to be addressed fast if we don't want a repeat of the 2024 chaos. The team reportedly has eyes on Chris Olave, the Saints' star wideout, but talks are early, and it's going to take a real offer, likely a third-round pick or better, to get him. Steelers insider Mark Kaboly raised a different idea on 93.7. The Fan, why not go after a proven veteran like Amari Cooper or Keenan Allen on a cheaper deal? Why not try to get Amari Cooper? Why don't you go get Keenan Allen? Kaboly asked. If I'm going potential third-round pick, or getting Amari Cooper for 1 year for $3 million, I would take Amari Cooper. It's a fair point. Cooper may not be a long-term fix, but for 1 year, at a fraction of the price and without giving up a draft pick, that might be the smarter move. Let's break it down. Each option has its upside and downside. Signing Amari Cooper. Pros, cheap contract. No-loss draft picks adds a veteran presence. Mentorship for Calvin Austin III and Roman Wilson. Cons. He's coming off a down year. There's no guarantee he plays at a high level anymore. Trading for Chris Olave. Pros. Young, explosive talent. On a team-friendly rookie deal. Long-term. Option at WR1. Cons. Concussion concerns. Would cost a premium draft pick that could be used in 2026 to get a franchise quarterback. This all boils down to one simple thing: risk versus reward. Do you swing big for the future with a guy like Olave, knowing it could cost you both cap space and capital? Or do you play it smart, grab a veteran like Cooper, and keep your flexibility open for a huge move next offseason? Remember, the Steelers have a stockpile of picks in 2026, and many believe they'll use those to go up and get a quarterback if Rodgers turns into a one-year rental. The quarterback room in Pittsburgh right now, it's one of the most fascinating and confusing in the entire league. You've got Mason Rudolph, who came back this offseason in free agency. You've got Skylar Thompson, the former Dolphins backup. And you've got rookie Will Howard, a guy with raw talent and a big arm. But here's the truth: none of these guys are expected to be the long-term starter. That's why the Steelers are still playing the waiting game with four-time MVP Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers has been rumored to be leaning heavily toward Pittsburgh. He's visited the facility. He's worked out with DK Metcalf. The buzz is real. The expectation is that he'll sign sometime before June 10th, right before mandatory minicamp kicks off. But here's where things get interesting. Former Steelers QB Charlie Batch went on the Arthur Moats Experience podcast and dropped a comment that has a lot of fans raising their eyebrows. When you add an Aaron Rodgers, I think the longer it goes towards training camp, I think you have to give the edge to Mason Rudolph. Wait, what? Look, before you laugh this off, and trust me, I get it, Charlie Batch actually made a decent point. Rodgers, for all his greatness, is stepping into an entirely new system. He hasn't run Arthur Smith's offense before. Meanwhile, Rudolph has been in the building since March, getting those early reps, soaking up the playbook, and learning the system from the ground up. Batch explained, "We understand what Rodgers' resume looks like. But again, this is not a system that Aaron has spent the majority of his career in. I just think the longer that this goes on, the more you're walking on thin ice when it comes to how soon you can realistically put him in there." So yeah, while it might sound crazy on the surface, there's at least some logic to the idea that Rudolph might have the early edge if Rodgers delays his decision much longer. Let's not get it twisted, though. If Rodgers signs, he's going to be the starter. Mike Tomlin is not going to keep a healthy Aaron Rodgers on the bench. He didn't even give Justin Fields a shot to compete with Russell Wilson last year. And Fields was younger, more athletic, and had upside. So there's no way Tomlin brings in Rodgers and tells him to hold a clipboard behind Mason Rudolph. But that doesn't mean Rudolph's role is irrelevant. Quite the opposite, actually. If Rodgers isn't signed, or worse, if he signs and then suffers another injury like last year, Rudolph could become the guy again. That's why this entire situation is so important. Even Batch noted, Rudolph's edge is only temporary. Rodgers is a Hall of Famer, but the longer this drags out, the more it complicates things for a team trying to hit the ground running in 2025. And let's shift gears for a second, because there's another name in this conversation that can't be ignored: rookie quarterback Will Howard. This kid has the tools: size, arm strength, mobility, but what he doesn't have yet is experience. And that's why his development needs to be a priority. Here's the issue. If Howard is stuck as the third-string quarterback, he's not going to get the reps he needs. In the NFL, third-string guys barely see the field in practice. They don't get reps with the starters. They don't build chemistry. It's almost impossible to grow in that role. So whether Rodgers signs or not, Howard needs to be the backup. If Rodgers is the starter, great. Let Howard sit behind him, take second-team reps, and learn the game at NFL speed. If Rudolph starts the season, fine. But Howard still needs to be QB2, not Skylar Thompson. The Steelers already know what they have in Rudolph. The future is Will Howard, and he has to get on the development track now, not later. So let's piece this all together. If Aaron Rodgers signs soon, before minicamp, he'll have time to learn the system, build rapport with the offense, and become the Week 1 starter. That's the ideal scenario, but if Rodgers delays until July or August, that's where Batch's take becomes more valid. Rudolph will know the system better, and that might buy him some time under center. Still, no matter how this shakes out, Will Howard must be in the backup role. It's the only way to get the most out of this quarterback room and set the franchise up for long-term success. We're not just talking about 2025, we're talking about 2026 and beyond. The Steelers can't afford to mishandle their most promising young quarterback just because they're unsure what to do with Rodgers or Rudolph. So Steelers Nation, where do you stand? Do you believe Aaron Rodgers is really going to be the guy that turns the ship around in Pittsburgh? Do you think Ian O'Connor is right, and this will end up being the storybook final chapter of his Hall of Fame career? And what should the Steelers do at wide receiver? Go all in on Chris Olave and take the gamble? Or play it safe, grab Amari Cooper, and let the young guys prove themselves? Let me know what you think in the comments. I read every single one, and I want to hear your take on this. Don't forget to smash that like button, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel so you never miss another update. We're bringing you breaking Steelers news, trade rumors, draft analysis, and more, all season long. Steelers Nation, stay locked in. Big things are coming.